This session is about the water system and public health. The water system consists of all water-related infrastructure in the city, including stormwater drains, sewerage lines, STPs, wetlands, lakes and rainwater harvesting systems. So, in this session we will see how to assess the health of the water system as a whole, and also how the water affects the health of the public. First of all, let us have a look at the lake assets of Bangalore. This map shows all the lakes in the city, and how they are interconnected through major drains, also known as Rajkaluways. 3 ridges run across the city as shown here. They split the city in 3 different valleys, the Hebel Valley, the Vrishabhavati Valley and the Koromangalashalagata or KNC Valley. Each valley has a long chain of interconnected lakes. Other shorter lake chains join this longer chain as tributaries. Thus any pollution produced anywhere in the city reaches one of these chains. This polluted water goes out of the city and used for irrigation. This is how pollutants enter our food chain. So let us examine how this pollution affects us. This diagram shows the entire chain, from source to the food, via the lake network. During the rainy days, rain dilutes the sewage. On dry days, the drains carry only the sewage. Let us consider actual examples. The sources include industrial pollution and domestic sewage. The pollution channel consists of the entire drain network, lakes, and irrigation channel network. And here are some examples of the food chain. For example, one food chain consists of crops that grow on polluted water. The crop may be consumed in any form, roots, leaves, fruits or seeds. Another indirect food chain is when crop grown on polluted water yields grain, which is eaten by chicken, and the chicken is consumed by people. A still longer food chain is when the chicken lays eggs, which are consumed by people. Compared to chicken meat, the pollution reaching the consumer through eggs is different. The grass growing on polluted water is eaten by cattle, and milk products are consumed by the people. Finally, the drinking water also may be recycled water, and carry some pollutants. Thus industrial and domestic pollutants can enter our bodies in myriad of ways. The pollution chain itself affects the pollutants in multiple ways. The rain dilutes the pollution. However, note that this happens only during 60 wet days in a year, spread across 7 months. While the water passes through the lake chain, it evaporates, thus increasing the concentration of the pollutants in the remaining water. On the other hand, the vegetation in the drains and lakes absorb pollutants, thus reducing the concentration. This is called bioremediation. The food chain itself has 2 effects. When any organism consumes food, the pollutants in it get accumulated in a particular part of its body. This is called bioaccumulation. For example, in a plant, the pollutants may accumulate in its roots, stem, leaves, or seeds. This pattern is different for each species of plant. At each higher level in the food chain, the amount of each pollutant gets multiplied by a large number. This is called biomagnification. The higher we go in the food chain, the larger the amount of pollutants we get. So, the question is, how to remain safe in this situation? Also, do we have any legal provisions to make us safe? The answer to the first question is to prevent the pollution from entering the water chain. Then we will never get the pollutants in our food or water. But it is virtually impossible to eliminate the pollution altogether. Therefore our laws focus on setting a cap on pollution caused by any activity. Let us understand how our laws set these limits. We have 2 different acts. The Environment Protection Rules specify the maximum pollution that can be allowed for a given activity or industry. and the IS 10500 standard specifies the quality of drinking water. Let us examine if this is sufficient to ensure our safety. Here is an example of how environmental protection rules set a limit for the pollution in the water used for salt pans and shell fishing. The rules explain why a specific limit is set for each parameter. Some limits are even conditional and changeable dynamically based on the prevailing circumstances. Here, two separate applications are compared. On the left is limits for non-contact applications, and on the right, limits for applications where we come in contact with water. Compare the highlighted parameters and their limits. This clearly illustrates how limits are set for each application, based on its impact on human life. However, there is a lacuna in this system when it comes to water used for irrigation. The environmental protection rules do not set a limit on the toxic substances, pesticide residues, or other substances that can be harmful in large amount. This is probably because there are too many food chains, and each has its own bioaccumulation and biomagnification factor. Therefore, we cannot set a common limit on the quality of water. The impact on health depends on the type of plant, and the part that is consumed. Therefore, the water parameter limits must be set for each type of crop. At this stage, we must also consider the assimilative capacity of the environment, which is its ability to handle pollutants without any detrimental effects to the users. In other words, the total pollution must not exceed this limit. In old batteries, both plates are coated with lead sulfate. If a battery recycler tries to clean up the surface, he would be releasing a lot of lead sulfate. Lead sulfate is toxic by inhalation, ingestion, and skin contact. It is a cumulative poison, and repeated exposure may lead to anemia, kidney damage, eyesight damage, or damage to the central nervous system, especially in children. It is also corrosive. Contact with the eyes can lead to severe irritation or burns. Safe limit for lead sulfate is 0.15 microgram per liter. From this discussion, it is easy to infer that we must eliminate the pollution at source, rather than trying to separate pollutants from water. The lake is supposed to serve as a habitat for a wide variety of birds and animals. Let us understand how lakes can become good habitat. Let us consider the requirements to make a habitat for small birds. Similar lists exist for different types of birds and animals. 1. We must use native plants, and not exotic plants imported from other regions or countries. They are not compatible with the local environment. 2. Diversity in plants, with different heights and densities, with upper, mid and lower layers. 3. A dense, closely planted, central area of 1 to 2 meter tall shrubs to provide for roosting, nesting, and taking shelter from weather and predators. 4. Different kinds of food, such as nectar, fruits, berries, seeds, insects, and fish. 5. Vines and other ways to provide extra cover from predators such as cats, and larger birds. 6. Spiky plants to protect from predators such as cats, and larger birds. And 7. Nesting materials, including leaf litter, sticks, bark and grasses. Some birds may need small cavities to build their nests. So far we discussed multifaceted requirements for birds, animals, and people. Now we come to the health of the lake itself. The condition of a lake is known by its trophic state. Trophic means nutrient related. A lake starts its life as collection of water. In the beginning, the lake has no nutrients and has crystal clear blue water. There is not much aquatic life. This is called oligotrochic stage, which literally means low nutrients. But over time, the incoming water brings with it the nutrients and eroded soil. This gives rise to aquatic plants, fishes, snails, amphibians, etc. This stage is called mesotrophic, means moderate nutrients. The nutrients keep coming to the lake, and eventually the lake have optimum level of nutrients. This is the eutrophic stage, meaning good level of nutrients. The lake has abundance of aquatic life. The transparency of water is moderate. The final stage is called hypereutrophic, meaning excessive nutrients. Here, the water transparency is very low. The lake has frequent and severe nuisance algal blooms. It also has frequent fish kills. So, somehow the lake should remain in eutrophic stage forever. The problem with these stage system is the lake transition from one stage to another is gradual, and it is difficult to state what is the current state of a given lake. So, we judge the state of a lake based on a parameter known as TSI, or Trophic Stage Index. The TSI can be measured accurately, and has a scale of 0 to 100. Different trophic state of a lake are associated with a certain range of TSI, so we can tell a lake's trophic stage from its TSI score. Note that the TSI score has a direct relationship with the phosphorus in the water. Thus, higher the phosphorus, higher the TSI. In other words, to keep a lake healthy, the phosphorus coming to the lake must be kept within a limit. Finally, we come to an aggregate score called the Lake Health Index, which is used to describe the overall quality of a lake, including the quality of its water, and the diversity of vegetation, birds, and animals supported by it. Since it is an aggregate number, it assesses the lake based on several quality parameters, and the final score is calculated based on those factors. These factors are divided in three groups. The physical indicators, the biological indicators, and the chemical indicators. First, individual scores are given for each parameter, and then an algorithm applies different weights to parameters to derive the final LHI score. We have a mobile app to evaluate these factors. Any visitor to a lake can use the app and respond to the visual questions. The responses from multiple users would be used to calculate the LHI. Thank you.